Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, Augusto Argandoña Fine Arts. Anytime in this narrated tutorial, you can click on the subscribe button to subscribe to my channel. If you should want to learn about my virtual classes or want to see my paintings, you may do so in my website at aafinearts.com. This tutorial is one more in my series of tutorials about how to paint, how to do a painting with watercolors in 20 minutes. I call it my 20-minute watercolor series. So this is a beach scene. It has some vegetation, obviously sand dunes, etc. So without much ado, let's go ahead and start the painting part of this tutorial, the 20-minute watercolor, and start. So I will go ahead, and like I said, this is going to be a 20 minutes. So I'm going to start by adding some water to the sky area, right down to the horizon, covering all this area where the dunes and the vegetation will be. And I'm going to use a little bit of rose madder and cerulean blue to create a gray, a really nice gray. There we are, a little bit more of that. I'm going to use a little bit of sepia with that, very little sepia. And on that wet sky, I'm going to add a little bit of these colors, like that. I'm going to also bring in a little bit of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. And add another dimension to this, that grayish type sky, like that. There we are, like that. Then I want to bring in some ultramarine blue with manganese blue. And then just a few strokes of that blue like that. Maybe a little bit over here and combine it into the distance. And that's pretty much it for the sky. There, like that. Pretty nice, kind of grayish, kind of bluish sky. Now, while that is drying, I'm only going to add some water to this area where the sand will be and the dunes. I don't know what this is over here, but I'm going to remove it. There we are. I'm going to add quite a bit of water to this area. Make sure that area is pretty much covered, like that. I happen to splatter some color there, so some water, so I'm going to go ahead and cover that area a little bit more. Get rid of those splashes of water there. And well, this area is pretty much saturated. I'm going to go ahead and use the same colors, the cerulean blue and the rose madder for that gray. I'm going to add a little bit of ultramarine to that. There, with that color, I'm going to add a little bit of that into the sand area. I'm going to bring in some more burnt sienna, warm it up a little bit in some areas, not too much. There, like that. There. A little bit more of the rose madder with cerulean blue. A little bit more of that grayish, kind of rosy color. like that. And a little bit more of the burnt sienna as well. Just in a few areas, kind of just give it a quick transition of color. And I'm going to leave it like that. And while that is drying, make sure that this is still kind of damp. I'm going to add a little bit of water, very little water to this area. Not too much. There we go. And I'm going to bring in some raw umber. Quite a bit of raw umber, very little water in my brush. And I'm going to use a little bit of on the sea green. And I'm going to use some of the the cerulean blue. Let's start with those colors over here. And I'm going to just use my brush this way. And like that. A little bit more of cerulean blue. There we are. Like that. Bring it all the way to the corner. Like that. More raw umber. This time I'm going to use a little bit of ultramarine blue. Give it a little different coloration to this vegetation. That sky is dry now, so I'm going to bring a little bit more over here, like that. Like that. There. And now, more of the raw umber. And on this kind of damp areas, I'm going to bring in some of that raw umber with, I'm going to mix that with raw sienna and the cerulean blue. I'll do a little bit more of that over here. Coming down onto the dunes on this wet paper. Like that. In fact, I'm going to change brushes and do that with my flat brush. The raw umber, the raw sienna, and cerulean blue. And bring that right into the dunes, the grassy areas. And over here, I'm going to skip in some areas, have more of the raw umber, this time with a little bit of Payne's gray, a little bit of the sepia too, and bring that right into these areas, into where the grasses will be. Skipping some areas where the sand will be shown. That. More of the burnt, the raw umber, Payne's gray, and the sea green with that raw umber. Like that. A bit of ultramarine blue. and come over here. Do some of the dark areas, bring some sepia into that mixture with the ultramarine blue. Some areas over here, like that. Some over here too. Like that. Clean my brush, really good. Now I'm going to bring in some rose sienna with aureole in yellow, and this, or the green, that color that I have here. Like that, there we are. There. I'm going to let that dry. While that's drying, I'm going to get some of the burnt umber and sepia with a little bit of ultramarine blue. And while this is still kind of damp, I'm going to bring in some texturing effects into the sand, like that. A little bit more sepia. Do that over here. Just do a little bit of a different effect, like that. And with your finger, kind of rub it in a little bit, like that. Get a few little marks here and there on the sand. Some roughing up a little bit with the finger. Do more of that. There, that's it. Enough. While that's drying, I'll clean my brush really good and pick up some cobalt turquoise with some rose sienna and a little bit of ultramarine blue. And we'll do the water. Start right at the, this is dry now, right at the horizon line. Dry paper. Bring it right over there like that. And continue with those colors coming down. Skipping some areas, leaving the white for the breakers. Like that. And bring it right down to the beach. And in some areas, bring the water coming in into the sand like that. Like that. Leave some of the white for the breakers, where the waves are breaking onto the water, the shore. Now, while that's drying, I'm going to bring in a little bit more of the ultramarine blue with a little bit of Payne's gray, and for the very distant horizon. It's always darker in the distance. Like that. Clean my brush. Remove all the moisture from the brush, or most of the moisture, and kind of smooth that area a little bit. There, like that. Bring some of those darker colors. And on that dry, almost dry area, add a few darker strokes. Remove this white that's in the very distance. We leave the whites on the only close to the shore. Like that. A little bit more of that turquoise color, or the color of the Gulf of Mexico. There we are. It's like that. Then I'm going to change brushes to a different flat brush. Get some brown sienna with a little bit of the brown that's in my palette, and do some of the wet sand. Like that. And even that out like this. Darken some areas a little bit more. Like that. And remove some of this color from that very edge. There. Like that. Yeah. A little bit of that bluish tint. There, like that. Got some areas. And now I'm gonna get these areas almost dry. I'm gonna pick up some sepia, some undersea green, and some Payne's gray, and do some of the darker vegetation. There, like that. There. Some of that over here. Like that. Take my flat brush, pick up some rose sienna mixed with that dark green, and with separating the bristles like this, and do some of the tall grasses, indications of the grasses. Holding the brush this way, where I have a little bit more control. go like that. We have just a few more minutes left in our allotted time. And some of those grasses over here. A little bit more over here. Like that. And finally, get a smaller brush. Get some of this gray color. There we go. And there's always birds. Like that. Take advantage that I have that color over here, and I will sign it. Here comes the dark board. Remove this, put it on a dark board so you can be able to appreciate it a little bit more. But before I do that, I'm going to do a little bit more of this greenery over here, some darker bushes and vegetation. Just a little bit more indications of that. Yeah. Okay, here comes the tape out of there. Remove this other tape. Remove the top. This one is always tough. I don't know why. Here comes the dark board. And pick up this one like this. And there we are, 20 minutes. Thank you for watching, and hope you enjoy my painting. And please visit my website at aafinearts.com, where you will see information about my virtual classes and a selection of my paintings and prints. Until the next time.